Hello everyone, this is Ilya from Advertising Tech. So today we are going to test out the Tesla Model 3 Model Y performance. I have a headache because it's too fast.
Me too.
I have a big
Me too.
Today, we're diving into the Tesla Model Y performance and long range, which I drove for a week while my 2024 Model 3 Highland was being repaired after someone hit it at the gym. I'll share a separate video on how Tesla handled the situation and how Sentry Mode saved me from insurance fraud. Stay tuned. But first, let's answer the big question. Is the 2023 most sold car really worth the hype? At first, I thought I would hate the Model Y, especially when I closed the door for the first time and said, wow, this car feels cheap. But after driving it for a while, I began to understand why people like it so much, even though I personally think it's quite an ugly car. The full black performance version with a white interior has a certain charisma. The first acceleration was exhilarating. You can hear buckle shifting in the trunk and see the smile on my face. For my girlfriend's first launch, she wanted to feel the moment. I warned her the launch was brutal, but despite my warning, well, her phone fell out of her hands. With track mode, which you should never use on public roads, even if you want the extra cooling, you can hear it in the video, the Model Y performance is undeniably fast. By the way, the top speed is set at 250 km per hour, even in normal mode. For science, I confirmed it, though I found it unstable above 230 km per hour. That same evening, I tested the car with friends to showcase the beast. Over 91 kilometers with so many launches, including an Autobahn blast at 250 kilometers per hour and 3 or 4 occasions over 200 kilometers per hour. I recorded 303 watt-hours per kilometer. I haven't measured the 0 to 100 or quarter-mile times, as those are well documented online, 3.7 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour and around 12 seconds for both the 100 to 200 and the quarter-mile time. On a daily basis though, you might even leave it in standard mode, not sport mode, as it will be more than enough already. What's more, I didn't have to deactivate the speeding chime every time I started driving, unlike my Model 3, where it's become second nature like deactivating start-stop on petrol cars. However, European regulations mandate this chime on all new cars, so Model Y sold after July 2024 now got it too. If you find it annoying, companies like Enhanced Tesla offer updates to disable it permanently. Here's where things got interesting. The Model Y performance reinforced my choice of the base Model 3 as the best high-speed cruiser. My Model 3 has never had heating issues, even when pushed hard. The day I got the Model Y, it was quite hot outside, but not scorching hot either. And after just 2 to 3 pulls over 130 kilometers per hour, I noticed some subtle power limitations. Not significant, but still worth mentioning. This was surprising, as my Model 3 has never restricted me like that. I understand that LFP batteries, like in my base Model 3, are less prone to overheating than NMC batteries, but as a fast driver, thermal stability is crucial. Moreover, above 130 kilometers per hour, the Model Y performance didn't feel much faster than my 283 horsepower Model 3 Highland. The 500 horsepower Model Y felt like it had only about 50 horsepower more than my Model 3 in that speed range. To verify my impressions, I turned to zpers.com. The data showed that the Model Y performance is closer to the base Model 3 than the Model 3 performance after 100 km per hour. And the old base Model 3 was even shockingly faster from 140 to 180 km per hour. Ultimately, the aerodynamics make a big difference. The Model Y performance is for those who want a roller coaster 0 to 100, bold looks and added practicality. With mixed dynamic driving, I averaged 200 watt-hours per kilometer. Driving normally, not hypermiling, I managed a respectable 166 watt-hours per kilometer. Not bad for a car with 21-inch Uber turbine wheels and a bulky shape. For comparison, my Model 3 Highland rear-wheel drive averages 150 watt-hours per kilometer, cruising mostly at high speeds. When I drive like I drove the Model Y Performance most of the time, I can drop under 130 watt-hours per kilometer, giving me a highway range of 400 kilometers. Once, I even hypermiled mine under 100 watt-hours per kilometer with no effort. However, elevation differences can seriously affect range. Where I live is mostly flat, so I usually trust the trip planner when I need to do more than 300 kilometers in one day, rather than obsessing over remaining range. The Model Y can charge up to 250 kilowatts, compared to the 170 kilowatts max on the base Model 3 and Y. However, the larger battery means charging times to 80% are similar to the base models. The real difference will be at home, where charging speeds are limited to 11 kilowatts for the entire current Tesla lineup. Personally, at that charging rate, I got about an hour of difference in charging to 80% or 100%, and that is if you get the right installation. Otherwise, you will peak at 7.7 kilowatts with 32 amps or 3.8 kilowatts at 16 amps. Some will even get 1.9 kilowatts with 8 amps, and some are not trusting their electrical installation and peak at even less by manually blocking their current to 5 or 6 amps, which is, on the other hand, the best thing you could do to further preserve your battery health, alongside not charging it above 80% or staying under 20% for a long period of time. I love the high seating position of the Model Y, which offered better visibility compared to my Model 3's near recline driving position. I'm not saying it's better, but it certainly felt like I didn't have to anticipate traffic as much. It almost felt like I was sitting in a truck, to be fair. The black exterior with a white interior is striking, but some areas fall short. For instance, the rear doors sound flimsy when closed, and the screen borders are noticeably thinner on my Model 3 Highland, though that's not a game changer. That said, the overall build quality of the Model Y is good. Nothing squeaks or feels loose. The fake Alcantara adds a premium touch. The frunk is so huge it can literally fit me, and the trunk functionality is particularly impressive. The rear seats fold flat at the push of 2 buttons, creating a roomy sleeping area. You can also fold the middle rear seat only, for carrying long items, and keep 2 rear seats available. Alternatively, you can simply stretch around to reach the built-in buttons on the seats, which you'll also need to press if you want to fully recline the seats back into a more comfortable position. The under-storage compartment is massive, and the side storage is large enough to hold water bags. The door storage is spacious enough to fit both a 1.5-liter bottle and a shaker simultaneously. However, a few quirks did stand out. The glove box is quite small and couldn't accommodate my 800ml shaker. The rear windows don't roll down completely, which can be a bit inconvenient. Also, while the trunk cover is practical, it's challenging to manipulate with just one hand. I also had the opportunity to drive the long-range, all-wheel drive Model Y, a version that I've always seen as both the worst and best choice. Its price often sits uncomfortably close to the performance model, while being far from the base rear-wheel drive. At the same time, I couldn't see myself choosing the base rear-wheel drive Model Y with its limited range and performance. However, the introduction of the long-range rear-wheel drive version fixed the issues with the base model, effectively rendering it obsolete, so much so that Tesla no longer sells it in the US. With the long-range rear-wheel drive now available, I couldn't help but wonder, why does Tesla still sell the all-wheel drive version? If I were buying a Model Y, I would have either chosen the rear-wheel drive for its range, or the performance for its power and small price gap over the long-range all-wheel drive. But that was before I actually test drove the long-range all-wheel drive. It didn't take long for me to understand its appeal and continued presence in Tesla's lineup. For context, I didn't reset the odometer on either the performance or long-range all-wheel drive models to track overall consumption accurately. However, it wouldn't have been representative anyway, as I drove the performance version aggressively on the first day, leading to a noticeable spike in consumption. Interestingly, during more typical daily driving, the long-range all-wheel drive didn't seem to consume significantly less energy than the performance model, even with smaller wheels. At this point, you might think, why bother with the long-range all-wheel drive if the performance is almost as efficient and more powerful? Here's the catch: the long-range all-wheel drive still delivers surprising acceleration. It offers a satisfying launch feel thanks to its all-wheel drive system, even without the $2,000 acceleration boost. Beyond 100 km/h, I honestly couldn't tell much difference between it and the performance model. However, if you plan to add upgrades like 20-inch induction wheels and the acceleration boost, you're better off getting the performance model outright. One thing that was different compared to the performance version is that it does not have a spoiler and does not hit the roof of my parking lot, even though I know I could have simply adjusted the opening height of the trunk. While driving, I noticed a minor annoyance with the sun visor attachment. On the performance model, the small cover even fell off when I turned the visor to the side, though I forgot to film it. Another issue was the driver's seat condition in the long-range all-wheel drive. With 68,000 kilometers on the odometer, it was already showing significant wear, whereas my Model 3 Highland, nearing 50,000 kilometers, still looks great. I suspect the difference might be due to the fact that you have to slide down to get out the Model Y and slide up to exit the Model 3. Note that the Model Y Performance was a 2023 version and the long range was a 2022 version, but either way there was no true refresh like the Model 3 had, not even a small one like the Model 3 in 2021. Though the Model Y directly came like the Phase 2 Model 3, so it didn't have to get a refresh until the 2024 Phase 3 Model 3 Highland. Notably, the 2022 long-range all-wheel drive still had ultrasonic sensors, enabling auto exit with FSD, whereas the Tesla Vision-based 2023 performance model lacked this feature at the time of filming. I tested auto exit briefly and will cover FSD in Europe in greater detail in a future video. The Model Y faced an unfair comparison with my Model 3 Highland, which has set a high standard. Small build quality issues stood out more by contrast, but overall, the Model Y achieves 90% of the quality while offering significant advantages for those upgrading from older cars. It's spacious, practical, and offers punchy acceleration. Currently, we're in a similar situation to last year with the new Model 3 Highland, when discounts allowed long-range versions to drop as low as 40,000 euros in France, compared to their usual 50,000 plus price tag. I hesitated back then because I didn't care much about the increased consumption of the long-range all-wheel drive compared to my rear-wheel drive Model 3 Highland, especially since I charge for free. My only complaint with Teslas has always been the lack of a front bumper camera, and I was disappointed when the Model 3 Highland didn't include one. If you're considering waiting for the Juniper Model Y and believe it will have a front bumper camera, which personally I think is likely, then it might be worth the wait. However, if you don't trust the leaks, remember, similar rumors about the Model 3 Highland turned out false, you might as well buy the current version and enjoy it now. If I had known the Model 3 Highland was just an aesthetic facelift with added ambient lights, upgraded comfort with slightly better soundproofing, but also a useless rear screen, the same battery and motors, no stocks, and no front bumper camera, I might have bought the old long-range all-wheel drive version at the time. If you find a used Model Y at a good price, or take advantage of Tesla's current promotions before the Juniper facelift, it's worth considering. Once the new lineup is released, prices will likely normalize, and Tesla's bestseller will likely see fewer incentives. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And if you're considering a Tesla, please use my referral link in the description to save up to $1,000. Also, if you want to watch my review of my Model 3 Highland, click on the recommended video on your right.